Thanks for downloading this episode of the Mental Health Book Club podcast. If you'd like to support us further, please head over to patreon.com/MHBC and contribute as little as $2 a month to get our episodes all in one go, instead of having to wait until the next one is published. Hello and welcome to the Mental Health Book Club podcast with your hosts Sydney Timmins and Becky Lawrence. We would like to take this opportunity to let you know that we will be covering a diverse range of mental health topics that may be distressing to some listeners. You can find a full list of the topics being covered in each episode in the show notes. Please check the show notes before listening to any of our episodes. Welcome to Mental Health Book Club podcast with Sydney Timmins and
Becky Lawrence.
And today we are going to be discussing Happiful Magazine, which is a monthly publication devoted to all things mental health.
Yeah, it's really good. And we've had the last 3 copies, June, July and August. And we thought what we would do each month is review the magazine by picking our favourite parts. Although I would tell you, please sign up. It's such a good magazine to read the whole thing. And you can go on their website and sign up to their mailing list and they'll email it to you for free. Or you can subscribe and then you can get the physical copies, which is really nice. I really like having the physical copy.
Yep, and if you subscribe to getting the physical copy, 50 pence of your monthly subscription is donated to one of their charities for the month. So the people behind Happiful Magazine are Memia, and I don't think you had heard of them before, had you?
No, so we did a bit of research into who they are. They're founded by 2 sisters, Emma and Amy, who experienced anxiety and depression in about 2005. And because of that, they felt that apart from going to your GP, it was quite hard to find the services around you to know where to go and get help. So what they did is they started a counselling directory. So you could go, and I think actually I used it to find my therapist. Now, I definitely used a counselling directory. And they now have 5 different sites which deal with counselling, hypnotherapy, life coaching, nutritionists, general therapy, and this means that they have access now, or they've given access to 21,000 professionals in their directory. And then out of that, they've now created Happiful Magazine, which is meant to be devoted to sort of breaking down the stigma around mental health and also promoting well-being.
Yeah. So just a little bit of background. Recently, you probably have heard, I hope you have heard anyway, at the beginning of our episodes, we have a little shout out to Happiful. They were kind enough to sponsor me in part to attend the mental health first aid course for adults in July. And it was a fantastic course. I would highly recommend it. I'm even contemplating going forward to become a trainer for this particular course because I really enjoyed it. I hope that as a result of my own experiences that it would bring additional benefit to people if they were to learn from me. But because of that, I said, well, what can I do to help you guys out? Because you've obviously helped me. And one of my suggestions was that I could do a podcast for the magazine. And I think that, as Becky said, this will become a regular feature of our podcast because I think it fits in really well with what we're trying to do. And we'll pick out an article each, I think. Mm-hmm. Maybe eventually, fingers crossed, we'll write an article and we'll see if we can get into Happiful Magazine. But I promise we won't pick our article if we do get in there, because I do think that's a little bit sad, isn't it? Like, oh, look, this is my favourite article because we wrote it. No, we won't do that.
And it's really fantastic because they've got some really great people on the front cover of their magazine. They've got some big celebrities and writers and people who are really amazing. This month it is Gemma Atkinson who is on the front.
And I like the yellow cover. It's quite a funky colour for summer.
It is. And it is all about mental health. And there's some things, though, that I didn't even know were a thing. Like, the first article we're going to talk about is about phubbing.
And I had never heard of this term until I picked up the magazine and read it.
Yeah, and so this might be relevant to really anyone, because everyone seems to have a smartphone these days. And phubbing is where you're in a conversation with somebody and they start looking at their phone.
And Becky is really guilty of this because she has become the most Twitter-obsessed person I know at the moment.
It's helping us, though. We need to build our social profile so we can get more listeners.
But you are pretty obsessed.
Yeah.
So I do wonder if maybe at some point we need to do a phone detox for you.
Well, I'm about to go on holiday, so I'm hoping to have a phone detox while I'm away. and then come back
who's going to look
refreshed.
after all of our social media?
I might go quiet for a while.
I highly doubt it. You know, she'll be sat by the pool tweeting everyone going, yeah, by the way, look at this for you. And we'll all be like, we hate you, Becky. We hate you.
So phubbing, though, can have a really major effect on the way you feel, because as soon as someone looks at their phone when you're talking to them, it can feel like a rejection. And what I didn't know, and I thought was really interesting, is that the magazine says that rejections, no matter how small, can actually make the brain respond in the same way it does as if it was physical pain. There's no differentiation, which I thought was really interesting.
I do too. And I think for me, as someone with borderline personality disorder, I feel rejection quite a lot of the time at quite a high level. So if you think about that is basically my life. I feel like I'm being constantly rejected by everyone. Then what are really it is compared to physical pain. So I'm just walking around just being bombarded by pain all the time because I do feel like
rejected.
It's a constant thing for me. Yeah. And so whilst most people may potentially feel down because someone is phubbing them, I would take that really badly. And I do take it really badly. And I think I have said to you, put the phone down. Otherwise, I am putting the phone somewhere you don't want it to go. Because it is really annoying. Yeah. And particularly at like the dinner table and things like that, it can be quite anxiety provoking for me because I'm like, well, what's wrong with me? Why are you so obsessed with your phone? Why are you answering your emails? Exactly. Why are you, Becky, get off Twitter and speak to me? We're sat here. No, it's just, I'm sorry. I'm saying that in quite a flippant way, but yeah, no, Becky does have an obsession with Twitter at the moment.
I do, but it's for our benefit. What I would say is it is very difficult. And if you're in a relationship of any kind with somebody, I mean, the article itself focuses more on couples and how if you're in a coupled relationship and someone does that and you feel rejected and that happens over and over again, then you're going to end up, that's going to eat away at your relationship. There's a part of the article I wasn't that keen on, and it's where after saying that, you know, you feel this rejection, this is what's going on, it does kind of go, well, Judy James, who's one of the practitioners of emotionally focused therapy, EFT, turns around and says, well, it could actually be your fault that they're doing it, which I didn't quite like in the article, I have to say. But it's a valid point that actually is your relationship not being nurtured enough that that person feels they need their own
disconnected from you.
Yeah, and they need their own validations from their phone and from their social media and from all of that, rather than from you, their partner. And although I didn't quite like the sort of, it almost felt like victim blaming to me. It's like turning it around, but it is a valid point that actually maybe there's a responsibility on both sides of the phubbing.
You can't just say it's the other person who keeps picking up their phone who has the problem. It is something going on within the couple relationship.
Yeah, so why is that? Why am I obsessed with Twitter? And
is it because I'm boring?
No, not at all. And then why is that person picking up the phone all the time? And then why also are you not liking the fact and feeling rejected? So there is a whole side of this that I didn't even really think about. So it was a really interesting article to tell you about that and to talk about how thinking about when you use your phone and when you don't, like you said at the dinner table, maybe making the dinner table a phone-free zone.
I think there should be other times when there's a phone-free zone. And I really find it difficult when you see people coming out of a bathroom with their mobile telephone in their hand. That just makes me go, ooh, 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 ooh.
Yeah, I definitely think bathrooms should be phone-free. Tables, dining room tables should be phone-free. And I think maybe we need to think about when we use it. So if you are sitting down over coffee with somebody and they're trying to talk to you,
and maybe you've got your phone out and you're playing something. Yeah. You're playing Plank. Becky is obsessed with this game called Plank. And I was sat there the other day and all I heard was the advert go off. And we were sat kind of having a conversation. And I'm like, you've been busted.
Oh, no, we were both on our phones. We weren't having a conversation at that point. But yeah, it is kind of like sometimes you do find you look around and everyone's just sitting there on their phones and not actually talking to each other.
Well, why would I want to talk to you?
Yeah, and I do think that maybe just being more self-aware of when we use our phones, because phones can be really great. I mean, they can make a connection with somebody.
I may turn to Twitter and social media to get some emotional input from people, but that's because myself and Lawrence finds it really hard to show emotions to me. And I do blame myself for that because of obviously my past behaviour. But there is also the issue that I then don't necessarily feel like he's in tune with my emotions as well, because he doesn't necessarily know his emotions. So sometimes I do have to look elsewhere for that emotional kind of validation, because sometimes I do feel like I'm being invalidated by him because he doesn't quite get where I'm coming from.
And I don't have a partner, so I think sometimes I like to put it on there to get that validation. And also, we all know that sometimes when you are dealing with mental health, you feel really alone. And so social media and things like getting into networks can actually make you feel like you're not alone in what you're suffering, that actually there are other people out there. So I found there are a few people out there that have narcissistic parents like I had, narcissistic siblings. And so they're able to sort of really understand the journey that I have had to go through to deal with my childhood. So I do think that social media and phones have a place, but I think we maybe need to, I think the article made me just think about when we
need more
it.
awareness, exactly, about when is it suitable to use your phone and when it is inappropriate, because there are times when it is just inappropriate and not fair to the people that you're meant to be interacting with.
Yeah. And even just having your phone on the side can sometimes, as soon as it flashes up, your eyes will go to it. So even though you're having a conversation, if you can see your phone and it goes off, you're going to be distracted. And so maybe if you're having those conversations, you need to actually put your phone away in a pocket, out the way so you can't even see. I know at school when I have the kids are allowed to sometimes listen to music in class because they're busy making notes and things like that. But I say to them, they have to turn their phone over so they can't see the screen because it's too tempting. If they get a text or a chat or whatever it is that they get through their own social medias, and it's too tempting to respond. And so to take that temptation away, I tell them to turn their phones over or put it in a pocket. Does it work? Most of the time. There are a few that still sneakily try. Busted. Yeah. But as soon as one gets busted in the class, they all are much better behaved. Yeah. So I do think it was an interesting article to talk about that.
So the next article that really resonated with me was the article on are you responding or reacting? And so with this one, as a person who may have gone through emotional issues associated with having too much emotion at one point, and usually that emotion being anger, I can definitely say that I probably reacted a lot before responding.
And it seems like quite a simple, tiny adjustment of language, but actually it's not. It's actually a major process. So the article says that a reaction is what your automatically defensive kind of response to a situation. You feel at a disadvantage, usually like your emotions take center stage, you lose your sense of reason, and you make assumptions about what those people's intentions are. Whereas a response takes this reflection that you haven't had. Where is the other person coming from? Why has it made you get angry? Is it the right response? Is it something else that you've been feeling? And it's kind of looking at that bigger picture and trying to see what's going on.
And so basically this is a skill that people learn to be able to do, because I don't know about you, but borderline personality disorder means that I often react without thinking about the process. I feel an emotion. I don't necessarily know what that is. Most of the time it's anger, so I react angrily.
And your defense mechanisms.
Yeah, and sometimes people look at me as if to say, why are you reacting about this? Because it doesn't necessarily tie up with the situation. There may be a slight angry thing that you could identify, but I would react 10 times more anger than is justified in that situation. That's because there's been all of this build-up before, and then I just kind of erupt in like this kind of flaming, scary, erupting volcano situation.
So you've had to learn how to actually
respond rather than react.
Yeah.
And I do think it is probably a key skill that everyone should have, because there are definitely always times like when you're tired or when you're ill or when there are things that are happening externally to
hot,
you. When
you're
you're
in the middle
hot,
of a heat wave.
Yeah, exactly. When you're hot, that people do tend to find that they're a little shorter with others.
Yeah, and usually I found that there is an underlying issue that's going on. So recently a friend of ours who is always late, okay, she is absolutely lovely, amazing woman, but always late. And I'm not talking 5-10 minutes, I'm talking an hour and a half. Okay?
Which was kind of funny in some ways, but kind of not.
Yeah, and it really irritates me. And I was kind of looking at, why does this irritate me so much? Some people really don't care if others are late or not.
I get a bit anxious, and that I don't know why I get anxious, but I do get anxious. And also, she stayed the night at my house, and she was going from my house to the garage, and she had a particular time that she needed to be there. And I was sending messages to Becky going, she's still here, she hasn't left yet. She's still here, she hasn't left yet. Why am I getting anxious about this? I'm not even going anywhere. I don't have to be anywhere on a particular time. It's her that needs to. And I was the one that was getting really stressed about it.
Yeah, and she was just like, whatever, I'll get there. And she gives every excuse under the sun and barely a reason. And maybe that's what irritates me, that she actually doesn't accept the reason for it. She often just goes, oh, yeah, I underestimated this and this happened and, a cat ate me and I don't know. It's just I
think she would freak out if a cat came anywhere near her. True. She's not overly fond of animals. No. Which is quite funny when she's here and there's 3 dogs running around. Yeah. She does swear at them quite a bit.
She does. She's Irish as well, so she really does
it's quite
swear
funny.
In a great way. So I had to kind of sit down and look at, why am I getting so irritated by this? Why does lateness bother me so much? And I think it links to my childhood. And my mum used to so when I was a teenager, I had a curfew. And if I was late for my curfew, for every 5 minutes I was late, I would be grounded for a day.
That's quite harsh.
Well, my mum is very controlling. She is
Did everyone in your household have that rule? Or was it just you?
Well, I think it was just me.
That's a bit harsh as well. But anyway.
Yeah. And then she would go, oh, it's because I worry about you. It's because you make me feel really,
no, it's
you make
you
me
want
worry.
Me to be home when you've told me to. You want to control me.
I won't know if you're in a ditch or fire and I wouldn't know about it. And so she used to make it out and guilt me into feeling that this was really important. And actually I was hurting her if I was late. So it became this massive thing that I had to do. I had to be on time. I had to be there. And I think that's where it comes from and why it irritates me so much. So it's got nothing to do with our friend whatsoever, but it just sort of fed into this past that, and you have chemotherapy and it's very similar to that, in that actually understanding that sometimes our reactions are due to something, that happened a long time ago, but is under the surface and is part of like kind of who you are now.
Mm. And then your job is to challenge that, to be able to figure out what it is and why it affects you so much, and then come up with coping mechanisms to be able to deal with that situation.
Yeah.
So if you are getting anxious by the fact that this person is late, what can you do to calm yourself down, to take yourself out of that situation? And I would love to be one of those people that are so laid back that they're almost horizontal and they rock up whenever they rock up and all of that kind of thing. Yeah. But I'm not that person. There is so much anxiety hidden underneath the surface that I find it difficult. And yeah, I do find, or I have found in the past, that I would react rather than respond. But I have learnt ways to be able to slow things down. And I think that's what this article is really talking about, is the fact that responding means that you have to kind of take a step back from the situation. When you respond to something, there is still your logical mind in there. You're not necessarily just going with your gut reaction of, I must protect myself.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to take a long time, but in the moment when it happens, it says, first of all, take a deep breath and think about it and try and reduce that stress. Take nice deep breaths and let out. It even says, as you're breathing out, you can even say, let go, just to push it out of your mind. And then allow yourself to stop and say, well, what's my knee-jerk reaction? Why am I having this? And then try and put yourself in the other person's situation. What are they? What are you assuming they're doing something because of a reason, or are you actually understanding where they're coming from?
So being non-judgmental.
Yeah.
And I'd just like to point out at this point, it has taken me years to be able to do some of these things. I'm not perfect. I can't get it every time. There are times when I just react, particularly if I'm tired, if I'm ill. I just can't do it. And it's not my fault. It's just the way it is. And because of that, I do beat myself up about it. I'm like, I know how to do this. I know what I should be doing. But you had 30 years of the opposite. And so it's going to take a long time for you to break out of those traits that you've learned over that time. So I often find that I have to leave the situation. I have to take some time out. I don't have the ability to be able to make that judgment quickly and go, I'm reacting, stop it, etc. I have to go, right, I need to leave, and I need to leave now. And then I can come back and deal with it later. There are times when I come back and deal with it weeks or months later, and the other person has forgotten about it, but it's been eating away at me for months. And then there's things that I've come and said to you, isn't there, where I've gone, look, it may sound really odd for me to feel this way, but it is the way I'm feeling. And these are the reasons why I'm feeling it. And it's making sure that I was definitely angry with you, but I didn't react at that time. I went, I need to deal with this later. Because if I do it now, I'm just going to get angry, and that isn't productive to our relationship.
Yeah. And I think that's really interesting, that it's about taking that time to process things and to allow yourself that time. It's really interesting. I think we all do on a smaller, maybe scale than somebody who has borderline personality disorder. But I definitely think it's something we all need to really consider. Are we reacting or are we responding? So thank you so much for that article. I thought it was really good.
So there are also lots of other articles in this edition. These were just the ones that we picked out. We'd just like to give a shout out to one of the people who wrote the article entitled A Grief Encounter, which is written by comedian Eshan Akbar, and I apologise if I've managed to butcher your name, but we are hoping to get him onto the podcast in the near future. We are in discussions. He wants to speak to the Secret Psychiatrist. At the moment, the Secret Psych is going through a change in job, so she's pretty busy, and we don't want to put additional pressure on her. So hopefully in the next couple of months, we will be able to record a podcast with him. And I do think that he will add a new voice, because it would be great, because someone who is funny, because I don't think we are that funny.
I don't know. People have told us that we are quite funny.
Who?
Friends.
Yeah, that's because they feel sorry for us or something.
Yeah.
We're not that funny.
No, but it'd be nice to have a new voice and a new story. And he does share his story very honestly about how he dealt with the grief of his mother. So yeah, we look forward to having him on.
We do indeed. So until next time, remember, it's okay not to be okay.
And if you're not okay, talk.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Mental Health Book Club podcast. If you need additional help with your mental health, please contact the Samaritans on 116-123, which is a 24-hour helpline. And if you need additional information about mental health issues, please visit Mind at mind.org.uk. Our next episode will be my take on the first day of the Mental Health First Aid course for adults. Our next book will be Love and Remission by Annie Belasco. If you'd like to find out more about the MHBC podcast, please visit our website, mentalhealthbookclub.com. We really hope that you enjoy this podcast, and we would like to hear what you think. Please head over to Twitter, follow us at MHBC_podcast, or head over to Facebook and follow our Facebook page, which is Mental Health Book Club. If you would like to show your support further, please share us with your family and friends, and leave us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. You can now support the Mental Health Book Club podcast on Patreon by going to patreon.com/MHBC. For as little as $2 a month, you will be able to get early access to our episodes. You'll be able to get our full episodes. So usually I split them into 30-minute episodes. You can get all of the episode in one go. And you will also be eligible for free prize draws and other giveaways as we go through. If you choose to support us on the silver level or gold level, you will now get a Mental Health Book Club podcast tote bag, which says it's okay not to be okay. And when we meet our target of $200 per month, we will be then giving $50 to Mind, the mental health charity. We would absolutely love to be able to get to this position, because we want to be able to give back to the mental health community as much as you guys help us out.